Hello, friends. Welcome back to a special presentation of tonight's show, Gastrophillia and
Hello.
Angela Collier's The Best Science Podcast Isn't What You Think. Good evening, Lockpick. Mwah. Future ex-husband. Much love to you. Future ex-husband of DJ 1308, TS 1308. It's getting specific around here. It's weird. Now, for tonight's dinner and a show, also we are here with the ASOC Prod Cat and the Peanut Gallery. And as
Goodbye.
is a rite of passage for all Granny Stewarts. It's something we have to do to earn the nickname Granny, to earn our name Granny. Well, y'all, we got a barrel peanuts in our RC cola.
Ah.
It's a family tradition. Now, I have right here one can of original peanut patch boiled peanuts, finest kettle cooked. But I also have a can of peanut patch Cajun boiled peanuts, y'all. Hoo-wee! I bet that gonna be some good stuff there. It's been. I also have some barbecue ribs here for dinner tonight to eat with my RC cola and bourbon peanuts. Cause it's been a hot minute since I done had me some bourbon peanuts. Oddly enough, last place I done had them was in Hawaii. They had some bourbon peanuts at the 7-Eleven station in Hawaii. I tell you what, them Hawaiians know how to burl some peanuts. Oh, doggies, I tell you what, they was some good burled peanuts. So, now, we got us nice southern cooking, southern traditions. And just so y'all know, this is what they look like here, these burled peanuts. They come in fluid, in brine, and you crack them open, and you drop the slimy bits out into your cup. Then you suck the brine and scrape the inside off, and then you throw them out. And that's how you shell burled peanut. And once you get enough burled peanuts up in your RC cola, you drink some, and you go back to shelling them. Now, it's more of a thing to do. Keep your hands busy while you're doing other things. I suppose it was something to keep them from smoking them too many cigarettes or whatever. So, that's what we're going to be doing tonight. We're going to be eating us some barbecue ribs, drinking us some RC cola, and eating burled peanuts, and watching this show by Angela Collier, from Angela Collier, about the best science podcast isn't what you think. It looks like it's car talk, and I gotta know. I just gotta know.
It can't be the car talk I'm thinking of.
Why not? That car talk taught me how to think scientifically.
Yeah, but the original Talbot brothers have passed.
So, doesn't mean their show's off. NPR keeps running that podcast.
There.
I mean, I would have never called it a podcast.
Yeah, I thought it was a radio show.
Exactly.
So that's the
But
thing.
people call what we do a podcast, so.
Of course, most radio shows or most podcasts are effectively radio shows.
Like I said several months ago, video killed the radio star. Podcast brought them back.
Right. So, without further ado, let's see what's up. Now, periodically, through tonight, I will be smoking pre-rolls, and those pre-rolls are, of course, brought to you by The Hidden Leaf, downtown Charlottesville, Virginia, on the Downtown Mall, 105 West Main Street, above the Brick, Suite 200, between New Green Cauldron and Hamilton's. A great place to go with some great buds. To get some great buds, a bud, and the only thing better than their bud is their customer service. Also, they have the lowest prices in town, according to my own highly biased research, by which I mean I was incredibly high when I did my biased research. Don't forget to check the website for times and events. The website is thehiddenleafcville.com. That's thehiddenleafcville.com. Thank you. And on we go. Burp. Oh, I need to do something.
I'm looking for somebody who is my lifelong partner.
Okay,
I'm down for
that.
anything.
You hear that?
Love Island, I'm coming. Wait, maybe not those words.
The unskippable ad.
Living with opioid
What was that?
addiction can be a
The unskippable ad.
Oh, yes. Love Island.
struggle. Supplicate with Counseling is for adults with moderate to severe opioid addiction who have
This one,
started
however-
treatment.
No.
I'm Angela. I'm a scientist and a YouTuber, and I feel like this angle makes it look like that I'm being held against my will, but I'm not. It's just that today I want to talk about things that I like. I make science content, but I also like to consume science content, and I just want to tell you, about the best science podcast of all time. And I'm gonna make like the political compass, but for what I think good science media is, and I'm gonna have two little number lines, okay? The first is, how educational is this media? Because some science stuff is very educational. It's intended to teach you a thing, and there are metrics they're trying to hit, and when you're done, you should have a knowledge of a topic. And there's some science media that still counts as science media, but it's just vibes. Do you know what I mean? I will give you an example. Bill Nye the Science Guy, a show I like. A show that I used to watch when I was like a child and the correct audience for it. But now as an adult, if I were to watch Bill Nye, I would still like it. It's still fun. If I were to watch Bill Nye, I would not be learning new information, right? Because I'm a grown-up. So it would really be like the vibes. Just watching a science show that has good vibes, even though I'm not there to like get information. And on the other end, you have something like a college lecture. Just the most informative way information can be given to your brain, right? You go to a college lecture, you have your notebook, you have a syllabus, you know what chapters you were supposed to read beforehand. You are there to get information. But it's not just like how informative is the media. You could also ask, how is the experience of consuming this media? Is it dry and like slow, or is it fun? Is it fun to watch? On the same scale, Bill Nye would be fun and a college lecture would be dry. No offense to college professors, I'm sure some of them make it fun, but in my experience, most of them are quite dry. And, like, that's fine. They're already experts in their fields. They're already learning about teaching and how to get information into our brains. Do we need to make them also have fun? I don't think so. I think it's fine. So now we have our little science media compass, and it looks like this. And we can put Bill Nye and a college lecture. Now I would like to put some additional media on this chart, just to get a vibe for what we're doing here. And I'm going to start with a podcast called Ologies, which is hosted by Allie Ward. I used to listen to hours and hours and hours of podcasts. And then I canceled Spotify because of Joe Rogan, and I switched to a different podcast app. And then I bought a new phone, and the podcast didn't like transfer. And I was like, well, this is just an insurmountable barrier. I'm never going to listen to a podcast again. So I stopped listening to all podcasts in like 2023, but I'm going to assume that the podcasts I mention are still good. I assume Ologies is good because it was good for years and years. It is a podcast where Allie Ward interviews a random ology person, a random professor, a random professional, a random scientist, and just ask them
Mr.
questions.
Wizard,
Allie Ward
yeah.
is an
Mr.
incredible
Wizard
interviewer.
was my guy.
She does this crazy thing that a lot of interviewers don't do, where she asks a question and then she listens to what the person says and she responds with a question related to what they just said. I'm shocked when I listen to most interviews and they like, here's the question. Here's the next question. It's crazy. She's not that. She's really good at interviewing people. And I also think she has a really active Patreon where they submit interesting questions. However, on my chart here, I am going to put it more on the dry side, not because of Allie Ward, but because the guests are often professors, and as we've said, they're not the most exciting people. I mean, some of the episodes, very good, very fun. I think the mycology guy is one of my favorites. There's one about a guy who studies baby dinosaurs that was really good. But this is a solid science podcast, and I don't know if I've said this yet. Everything on my little compass here of science media is what I would consider good. So even if I'm saying it's dry and informative, I still love a college lecture. Okay, next I'd like to talk about Antiques Roadshow.
Hey!
Antiques Roadshow, there's an English version and an American version. The idea is it's like they're at some event. Like they're like, I'm at this zoo in Cincinnati and everyone needs to bring their things. And so people in Cincinnati find what random thing they're going to bring, and there are experts there to tell us about the piece. And my favorite thing when I'm watching Antiques Roadshow is like they'll have like a Sumerian sword. And the guy, the historian, will be like, I've never been more excited to see a piece like this. Like, you see these markings here, and they're just talking about it. And the person is just like, give me a number. Give me a number. Give me a number. It's very funny. It's very fun. If I was on Antiques Roadshow, I would bring this print that I found at Savers for $5 the other day. And it's beautiful. I'm not going to sell it, of course, but give me a number, Antiques Roadshow.
Life is filled with impactful moments.
Give me a number.
Moments that bring you together and change your perspective. But
Also, Antiques Roadshow is hosted by a man named Mark
Baby
Wahlberg,
Dennis, so a
and it
T-Rex
gets
is
me
not a
every time. He's Mark L. Wahlberg. And you might say, Angela, is Antiques Roadshow a science show? And I would say absolutely. You go
In a
and
way.
you bring your little clip and they tell you the different types of metalworkings were done on the piece. They tell you how paper was made 700 years ago. I think, in my opinion, that is a science show. It makes you think like, I've never wondered how they used to do metalworking. And you answer the science question of how do you do metalworking? And if you
Fair
don't like
enough.
that, like, it's my channel, and I say Antiques Roadshow counts as science. And you might say, Angela, everything is science then. And like, yeah, I kind of do think that. So, okay, I'm going to put it
See
here
why I like her?
in the vibes
See why I
category
like her?
mostly. Just because
Yeah.
you don't get as much science as you would like. Like, the little snippets are 90 seconds, and you don't get as much info as you would like, and especially not what you would get on like a dedicated documentary to those pieces. but I do really like it and it's really fun. I'm gonna say that it's dry just because there's no personality in the hosts because it changes from episode to episode, so you don't really get to know anybody. But it's great. Next we have This Old House, which is another show that's been running for a super long time that I love. I think it's on PBS. Every season, and this show's been running for like 40 years, they get a house in the nearby area to me in like Massachusetts
I do
near Boston.
not like This
Sometimes
Old
they go
House.
as far as like Connecticut, and they remodel a house or they build a house. And each week it takes you through a
Not
different
like
type of
This Old
job
House, or do you
during
not
this
like
build.
Bob
So like
Vila?
one day you're framing a wall, and the next
That's a fair question.
What I don't like about it, is that because I don't like doing construction work, This Old House feels like instructional video about something I don't enjoy doing.
Fair enough, it kind of is.
Yeah, like there's no part of it that I want to do. I don't see something on This Old House and go, "Oh, I want to try that." None of it brings me joy. As opposed to like watching Antiques Roadshow, and I love learning the history of the pieces. I love learning the history of art, especially when they bring art pieces in and they're talking about the history of that style of art. You know, I love art history. Go away. You're not getting any of this. You ate the cat's food earlier. Go on. Yes, I know. It seems a little harsh to do to Deadpan Dog right now, but like, no, seriously, he did. He ate the cat's food. All the cat's food. Like, and it wouldn't be so bad, except the cat food isn't cheap.
No,
Like,
it's not.
so, where are you guys on Antiques Roadshow? Oh. One of the other things about Antiques Roadshow is, I wanted for a long time to be an antiques collector and dealer. I actually kind of still want to do that because of a TV show that I used to watch and do still watch called Lovejoy, starring Ian McShane. And so it is, the antiques aspect of that really got me excited as a kid. So where are you guys on those shows? Let's hear your opinions.
Well, the one reason I'd ever want to be an antiques collector or dealer is because of Highlander.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that. That was one of the things that I thought was cool about Highlander was like, ooh, look, he's like Lovejoy.
But no, I'm much more of this whole house guy as opposed to Antiques Roadshow. Yeah.
You do look a
Occasionally the
little
piece-
Bob Vila.
You what?
You look a little Bob Vila.
I mean, occasionally the pieces are interesting, but the whole thing of watching the owner just their eyes glaze over when they're getting the information, just like, give me a number. That is mildly annoying. Also, never a huge fan of art history myself.
Oh. Okay. I mean, we all have our things, you know. I also do find it amusing to watch them.
I'm the one that likes to watch the history shows.
Yeah. I mean, I like to watch the history shows too. Don't get me wrong. I love those. But at some point, History Channel and Discovery Channel stopped being about history and discovery. And I started being
true.
like, nah, I don't need that.
Growing up, we watched PBS. We watched whatever was available. If we were visiting Grandpa and he had cable currently, we'd watch whatever was on the History Channel and Discovery Channel.
Okay.
But I was also encouraged to go read all of the history books and try to figure out which ones on his bookshelf were history and which ones were westerns, because like 90% of the books on his shelf were Zane Grey. So the rest of the books, you know, it was a case of either it was solid history books or solid reading material of one sort like that, or it was the Time Life collection of ancient artifact books.
Oh,
Remember
I loved
those?
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got the one about the artifacts, you've got the one about the pyramids, the one about this, the one about that, where looking at it, you could tell there was something worthwhile in there, but you could also tell that it had been kind of fancied up a bit to make it more entertaining to read.
Yeah,
but they weren't accurate. They didn't have anything about the aliens.
Oh no, there was one about the aliens.
Oh yeah. Code Ink just popped into the chat.
Yep.
Or into the chat, not the live chat, the VC. But and I'm curious about you guys both, about you, what, you know, Lockpick, where did you get your what's your science media education from? Did you have Mr. Wizard? Do you remember, you know, any of that? And Code, what about you? Are you old enough to remember Bill Nye? You know, where do you get your, where did you get your science information from, history information? And do you prefer science, like the sciencey stuff, the history stuff? So, just so that everybody at home knows, these boiled peanuts are salty and slimy. They're wet and delicious and kind of gross, and I love it. And if you guys at home don't be putting peanuts in your soda, you don't know what you're missing. Earning the name Granny. Granny Stewart. Eating barbecue ribs and drinking RC Cola. Now, only thing could make it any better be as if I had moon pies. Because
Tails.
Huh?
Tails. Yeah.
Moon pies, well, cowtail's not so much a thing for my family. But moon pies and RC Cola were a thing. You know what happens if you eat too many moon pies? You get an eclipse of the
Run the
bum.
risk of being out in the middle of the field making pies under the full moon.
You get an eclipse of the bum. Bill Nye and a touch of other things that you can't name right now. Coding says, I get mine from Bill Nye and a touch of other things that I can't name right now, but I am old enough to remember Bill Nye the Science Guy. Anymore, I'm more a game person than a science and all that. Yeah. That's fair. I mean, what we're going to go through, the stuff that she's talking about isn't just, science. It's all sorts of stuff. Like, Antiques Roadshow is a science in its own way, science education. All right, back to it.
Next week, you're tiling a bathroom, and the week after, you're describing which is the right kind of HVAC. Some of my favorite episodes are where the woman who does landscaping comes in and she's like, this is a native plant, and you want to have it up on the hill because of the way drainage works. Like, you just pick up so much information. Like, I'm never going to build a house, but, like, now I know, like, a little bit about what's possible that I could do versus what I would need an expert for. And this is the type of show you watch where you just pick up little pieces of information, and it's really, really good. So I'm going to put this here. It's fun because I really like the hosts. They're fun people, especially the woodworkers, and it's informative. Like, you pick up, could I build a house? No. But I know a little bit of things now. Okay, next we have Radio Lab.
Okay, so Radio Lab.
Which
Radio
is a
Lab, I
podcast.
find
Again, I
a
haven't
lot
listened to
more
it in
vibes
2 years. And I really like this
than
podcast,
informative.
but it's not so much science information as science stories, which I would
Yeah.
still consider science media. They're very, very overproduced, though. Like, Radio Lab is all
Very.
about the music and the pathos in your voice when you're telling this story. And, like, sometimes they're really sad and they're really saccharine. And I like that. But also, it's not so much informative as it is vibes. And I put it in fun because it leans towards that style of interesting. It's not dry, but sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes it's sad. Next, we have This
Yeah.
Podcast Will Kill You, which, if you know anything about me, you know I love learning about infectious diseases. And this is the podcast hosted by two... They're both doctors. And I think there's some kind of combination of medical doctor and, like, epidemiologist, and I'm not sure, but they always tell you, they're really good about always telling you what they work in and why.
Coding says, I also get some science stuff from the Valve game Portal, the second one specifically. And I'd like to point out that that's a really important place to get your science info from. Mm-hmm. Because it teaches you things like cake is a lie. 3.1415297. Nile Red. Oh, I love Nile Red. Yes, Nile Red is a great place to learn science. I get a lot of stuff from, right now, watching PBS Space Time. PBS Space Time, and I watch, I used to watch a lot of Physics Girl, but when Diana Cowan got long COVID, and went through her. And she's only barely being able to get back up and walk around. I just emotionally was racked because I got so invested in her as a person. That, like, you know, when my favorite teacher got sick, I became emotionally distraught. So, but she's coming back, so there is some of that, you know, some of that left to learn from. Favorite Nile Red video was the superconductor and the really bouncy metal discs. Those are so cool. Right on, right on. All right.
I'm familiar with this one.
It's worth looking up. It's worth watching. Nile Red and the superconductors and bouncy discs.
They know the information they know. And in this podcast, they pick a disease and they tell you some firsthand accounts of what it's like to experience this illness. They give you the biochemistry, like what is happening in your body. And then they talk about like the treatment and what to do about it. And it's a fantastic podcast. And I put it right here in informative. And this is another one that isn't so much fun because it's about infectious diseases, but it's definitely not dry. It's definitely interesting to follow along. And they also make little cocktails. So it's a good time. Next we have Mythbusters. And I'm just going to slap that right next to Bill Nye. Mythbusters isn't a show where they do science experiments. I mean, sometimes they act like they are. But it's more of a vibe. It's more of a fun. It's more of like watching someone do an engineering thing and saying, that's awesome. Planet Earth. And again, is this a show where you learn science? It is a science show. But do you learn science? Not really. I would slam this in vibes as well, but also I find Planet Earth incredibly boring. And again, everything on this chart I consider good. Planet Earth is like something you put on when you're falling asleep. Like it looks beautiful, it sounds beautiful, and like you don't have to watch it, but you can just listen to it, and it's fine. I did want to put some kids shows on here. I am not watching a kids show like Eleanor Wonders Why, which is on PBS, to learn science, but
my old Femcare wash didn't keep me fresh, but Secret Deodorizing Body Wash gives me 24-hour whole body freshness.
You do learn how kids approach science, which I think if you're a parent is very helpful. It teaches you how they're asking questions and what's a good way to reason with them and teach them science.
Another one, Mark
Here,
Rober.
I would also add Miss Rachel, who does content for literal babies. But Miss Rachel has a scientific approach to teaching you, the adult, how to interact with your baby in a way that will keep their attention and help them work on like developing their speech and their ability to communicate with you and all that good stuff. And I obviously wouldn't watch Miss Rachel, but it's good to watch that with your child because you are learning how to interact with children. There you go. Is this the last one? We have How It's Made. How It's Made is another documentary style show, and the episode will just be like candy or Pyrex dishware or tires or canoes, and you just watch like the tiniest documentary on how to make the thing. So I would put How It's Made here. It is very dry, but it's also very informative. You do in fact learn how they actually make hard candy. Could you go on to make hard candy? Probably not, but now you have a better idea of how it's made. It does what it says on the tin, right? This is the type of thing I go to for science media. You have the type of things to watch in the background. Like you're folding the laundry, you're doing the dishes, Mythbusters is on, and you can like look at it and then get back to your thing and then look back at it, and it's fun and it's engaging and it's on in the background. These are informative, dry things that need you to focus. So like if I'm going on a road trip and it's nighttime and I need to pay attention, I will slap on an ologies, something that will keep my attention because it's making me think about what they're talking about. It's more, I want to fall asleep to something that's vaguely interesting, so if I randomly wake up, I can be like, oh, there's a cheetah. Cool. What's here? What is fun and also informative. Something that keeps your attention, but also teaches you science. Why that would probably be the best science podcast, wouldn't it? I don't know why I'm acting like I haven't told you already what it is. It was probably in the thumbnail.
Right?
Like, there's no tension. You know where this is going. It's car talk. So let's talk about car talk. In the first half of this video, I would like to say, who are these guys and what is this podcast?
I work in Clinton, South Carolina, and I was giving final exams at Presbyterian College where I work, and I went to go get gas on an empty tank.
Yeah.
And I filled it up with what I thought was gas, but it actually was water.
Huh?
It
Really?
was water in the pump.
All right. Now, by saying car talk, that's how I got you two involved. I knew that would grab y'all's attention. Because for people of a certain age, this is just, and I mean of a certain age, over a certain age, this is cultural. This is ubiquitous. This is C code. Yeah, you don't know what car talk is. So this was a long running NPR show, probably one of the longest running NPR shows. And it was, I mean, you call in with a question about your car, and these guys answered it.
No matter how little information you had.
Right.
Yes.
And quite often, noise. The sound was the thing. My car is going
Yeah.
wubble, 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 wubble. Okay. Can you make the sound again? You sure it's wubble, wubble, not wubba, bubba?
Mm-hmm.
And they're from Boston. They're just, they were iconic. Oh, they were.
Okay.
You know.
How many of you remember the first Pixar Cars? Just go ahead and say something.
Yeah, something.
I remember that vaguely. I mean, I watched it. Yeah.
Okay.
And they were on that, weren't they? They had a bit part, didn't they? There was a joke.
Thanks for stepping on it.
Oh, sorry. I do that. My bad, guys. It is, yeah. I mean, they
were the Rusty's guys. They were his original
right.
sponsors.
Right. That's right. Okay. Okay. Yeah, code. You know, don't worry about it. That's the thing, like, you know, you guys, that's one of the things about the younger generation right now is you guys give me a lot of hope for the future. There's all this stuff that you didn't experience, but there's also all this crap that you didn't go through. So,
look, I might say, listen here, you whippersnappers, but
yeah,
don't take anything too serious about it.
Well,
I got told that many times growing up.
Right, that's part of why we
half
do
the time
it.
it was a joke. Half the time the person just wasn't in their head anymore.
They were, yeah, a little old. All right, so now that we've got some background on Car Talk for Code, well, I'm curious as to, you guys' experiences with it. Like, for me, there are memories of it playing in the background on Saturday evenings right around the time that my mom was making supper. But I also remember it on Saturday or Sundays, midday too.
Me, most of it was, well, in the car,
Of course, of course.
and it was one of the things that probably aired earlier in the week, but on the local NPR station, it also aired Sunday afternoon,
Right.
directly after the re-airing of Prairie Home Companion.
Yeah.
So these happened directly after my family got out of church, and we'd usually go for a bit of a drive to go out to eat. We'd get part of Prairie Home Companion. By the time we were done eating, we'd get part of Card Talk on the way home.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds familiar. Even if, church and going out to eat weren't part of it for me.
I mean, going out to eat may have just included going to Captain D's, which was a
Captain
older fast
D's.
food seafood place.
Oh my goodness, Captain D's. Captain D's nuts. Captain D's nuts right into your mouth. Okay, sorry.
He says that he's been spending the entire evening sucking on salty, wet nuts.
Mm-hmm. What salty nuts?
Thank you. I'm glad
Slimy.
you got there before I did.
Slimy, wet, salty nuts that taste great. And they spurt in my mouth a little
Sweaty
bit.
nuts.
They do. They spurt in my mouth a little bit sometimes. So Kat, what about you? What's your Car Talk memory? Your most prevalent?
Honestly, that is one that we really didn't get a chance to listen to often. It wasn't something that we didn't get PBS often enough to be able to listen to it there. Because we had to wait for the wind to be blowing right to get PBS.
NPR, you mean?
Doesn't matter.
NPR, PBS, you had to wait for the wind to be blown right to get anything. TV, radio.
Between the ages of 6 and 16, the only two channels that we got regularly and clearly were Fox 35 and NBC 29. Every other channel we had to wait for the wind to blow right.
What about radio, though?
Radio, we got one country station out of Danville.
Oh,
and
wow.
we got 3WV from Charlottesville.
Of course.
Everything else was just not really there.
Once 3Dub put that extra repeater tower in, they made it just about everywhere.
So we would listen to the radio when we were out driving, but first, generally it was going to be music, or Mom would have gotten cassette tapes from the library and we'd be listening to those.
Okay.
But also, Saturday afternoon or Sunday afternoon, we were not leaving the house to go do anything. If we went to church, We went to church and we came home. We did not go and do. There were chores.
Wow. I mean, yeah, there were chores. I had chores and homework and all this sorts of stuff over the weekends and stuff, but like radio. We had radio on almost all the time. You know, and I was allowed to listen to music. My parents understood that having music on in the background made me able to concentrate better.
Make up for not having very good radio reception, anything like that. What we did have was a significant collection of cassette tapes.
I imagine so.
Several cassette players. We had 8-track tapes and an 8-track player, and we had the record player.
Yeah. But, you know...
So it was the case of you might not be able to listen to anything live, but there was a selection of things you could listen to. And when it came to the records, the selection was eclectic.
Somehow I'm not surprised.
I know.
Right? Oh, okay. So you really, you don't, you didn't, as a child, didn't have car talk, but what about later on in life? What was, I mean, did you ever
Honestly,
find car talk? Or is this new to you?
I know of it. I've heard an episode here or there, but it was a case of, whenever I heard it, I was doing something else, and it was not enough to catch my attention and make me go, I want to go look for this later.
Oh, man.
It was a case of, this sounds really interesting. It's really cool how they're figuring out how this thing is working from just the sound. But also, it was a case of, this is really cool, but I have Dad and Damien that do this stuff, so if I really want to listen, I just listen to them do this live.
But you miss out on so much. Like the emboldened electron theory. That was one of my favorite things that they came up with, the emboldened electron theory.
Okay.
So, now sometimes when there's corrosion between 2 points, you sometimes get contact and you sometimes don't.
Mm-hmm.
Or if there's a cross circuit, a short circuit, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes all it's waiting for is this one emboldened electron to choose the path before the others start going there. And it's a very quantum physics theory. Yeah, like the neurons between your ears. Exactly. Very quantum physics sort of theory that really fits with observed science. And there are just so many, there are so many things, and like it, not just science theory, but also so much human nature, so much, everything, just everything. It's where I heard that Volvos had a button that you could press to make the Volvo seat dope slap someone. Newer Volvos have an automatic dope slap button.
Automatic what button?
Dope slap. It's where you smack somebody upside the back of the head for being a dope.
Okay.
There's a button. New revolvers have a button that make the headrest snap forward.
Oh.
100% pure water.
Really?
Yeah, so I didn't get very far. Well, my car is running again.
Yeah.
And you know, my mechanic says he thinks it's great. It's not going to cause me any problems. Then my father, my father-in-law, my brothers, their friends all say, oh, no, it's not going to last now because there's going to be corrosion in the cylinders and grit. I've heard this word grit, too, that there's grit in there somehow.
Well, we have a CD, which you maybe have heard of. It's called Why You Should Never Listen to Your Father When It Comes to Cars.
Or other guys.
And this is one of those situations.
Okay.
Yeah, grit. I mean, when you drink water, do you have grit stuck in your teeth?
No.
I mean, how bad is the water in Clinton, South Carolina?
Well, yeah.
Come on.
It's not
So the
that
grit story is bogus.
Okay.
And what were the other stories?
The corrosion in the cylinders.
Corrosion in the
Corrosion?
cylinders.
No.
Well,
No,
you should
first of
point
all-
out to them that water is the primary product of combustion.
Yes.
There's water in there all the time. And don't forget what's going on in there. Explosions. Combustion. How long could the water be there if there was water?
Turns into steam, it comes out the tailpipe. And the fact of the matter is that there are many engines which actually add water by water injection to the combustion process to improve it.
Oh,
So,
okay.
however, it is bad to have water, for example, going through your injector nozzles.
Yeah.
And I would hope that
You
when
cleaned those.
when they drained out the tank, they flushed out the lines. They probably, as a precaution, put in a bunch of dry gas,
Yeah.
which is alcohol, which absorbs the water. And if you didn't drive the car for days and days with this water in the tank,
No, I got across the street.
then
That
chance
was it.
you
I was able to cross the street.
you crossed the
but that
street
was it.
and it conked out.
Yeah, and then it just quietly
Well,
died.
she was on fumes. That was good.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, so all these guys who gave you advice, they're all full of baloney.
In the second half of this video, I would like to explain to you why I think, in my personal opinion, this is the best science podcast. And in the third half, could you make car talk today?
Hi, we're back. You're listening to Car Talk with us, Click and Clack, the Tappert Brothers, and we're here to talk about what? Cars, car repair.
What did you say?
She is talking about classic car talk. When I saw podcast in the title, I was like, what?
Right. But no, she's talking about classic car talk. Cars, car mechanics, and the cosmos.
And truth in advertising.
94 Plymouth Voyager, 265,000 miles, one new headlight. I would rather drive a railroad spike through my face than drive this car for another month.
So, Tom and Ray.
Wait, I thought Venmo was for paying people.
Yeah, and for everything else.
Everything.
Everything.
Here they come.
Magliosi. Click and Clack, the Tappet brothers, were born near Cambridge, Massachusetts, about 12 years apart. They both went to MIT and got their undergraduate degrees. And in 1973, they opened up a do-it-yourself repair shop called Hacker's Haven, where you would bring your broken car and you would pay them to rent the space to work on your car and the tools to work on your car. And they would just be around offering to help. And this sounds like just the coolest thing ever. Like, can you imagine if you had a broken thing and you could go to a location where someone will help you fix the thing? That's a dream. And I love that it's called Hacker's Haven. I wish this still existed. So Ray ran the shop full time while Tom worked in engineering consulting and then later got his MBA and PhD. And Ray makes this joke about how they just couldn't help themselves but go help the people who couldn't figure out their cars. So in reality, they were earning like $2 an hour to fix people's cars for free. After their show got super popular, they changed it to Good News Garage, where they hired like mechanics they trusted and they would pay fair rates. And that's also really nice. Can you imagine knowing that the car mechanic you go to isn't going to rip you off? What a dream.
Snap-on machine we use called a motor vac. and you hook this up to the injector rail, and
it works sometimes.
Yeah, when the injectors are the issue, it's amazing how well it works.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
so
awesome.
And what's he want for that? A couple of $100?
Are the issue.
Oh yeah, it was $125. It wasn't that much, you know. It was easy.
It's a deal.
We're overcharging the hell out of people.
They also had this charity where they would collect used cars. Like, people would donate cars and they would fix them up and sell them, and then NPR would take the profits and kind of fund, the public broadcasting system. That's really cool. They spoke
NPR
up
still
about
does that.
texting and driving. That's the shirt. And also drinking and driving. And also, they knew that your stupid truck is too big for no reason. You're in Boston. Why are you driving a pristine $70,000 truck with farm plates? You can't see where you're going. You have to take up 2 parking spots. Your truck does not fit here. And also, you don't use it to farm. You've never hauled a thing in your life. We all know that. You look stupid and it's dangerous. Your truck is too big. And they knew that. They were nicer than I am. So.
The front end, it's not throwing the front end out of alignment or anything. No,
right. It is not doing any such thing.
And the reason you have this problem is that you have a car that's too big for the city in which you live.
That's right. Because other people don't have to cut the wheel all the way left or right because their cars are already around the corner.
Yeah.
Yours, the back end of it is still in
right, you're
going
to get one of those firemen to sit in the back with the other steering wheel.
I mean, when you hang that right from Cambridge Street onto Beacon Street, right?
Yeah.
Why, half the car is in Somerville, half of it is in Cambridge, and no wonder you're going to crank it around like that.
Well, hey, what do you got?
Now, if you lived in Winchester, you wouldn't have this problem. You'd pull in your driveway at night, you'd back out, you wouldn't be turning the
you'd have
wheel
a circular driveway. You wouldn't even have to do that. You just pull into your circular driveway, come right out.
Driveway.
Huh?
That's how I discovered the problem, backing out of my driveway.
Yeah, but backing out in Cambridge where the streets are only 8 feet wide. You need to go where the streets are wide, man. You got a wide body car. Yeah.
Why did you buy this thing, Phil?
So the story goes that in 1977, a local Boston college invited 6 mechanics to come and answer listener questions on air. And Ray was like, I have a haircut, I can't go. So Tom goes, and he's the only one that shows up. So he does the hour, he answers the questions, and the producer asks him back next week. So he goes back the next week, and the producer was fired. So he did the show himself. The third week, he brings Ray in, and that's the start of Car Talk. These two brothers who know a lot about cars answer your questions about car repair and car maintenance and is my mechanic ripping me off. In 1980, they started getting paid for their work when they asked for $20 a week. In 1987, they were offered a weekly spot on the national NPR show Weekend Edition, and 9 months after that, they had their own nationally syndicated NPR show called Car Talk. They won a Peabody in 1992, and the show continued to great success and a huge listenership until they retired in 2012.
888 Car Talk. That's 888-227-8255. Hello, you're on Car Talk.
Should we call and see if the number still works?
Mm-hmm.
Wix. One platform. Any website. Unlimited creation.
I'd be so embarrassed if someone answers.
Welcome to Verizon Wireless. Your call cannot be completed at...
Well, that's kind of sad. They should set that up as like an away message or something. So this show had 3 segments. The first half was jokes and funny news articles sent in by listeners, and they would just do a bit before they started taking calls. The second half was the result of the puzzler from last week. So the puzzler was like a riddle or a tricky question or like a puzzle to solve that Ray would ask Tom. And then the next week, they would give you the answer to the previous week's puzzler. And they would ask listeners to send in the answer to the puzzler on the back of a $20 bill. And they would randomly pick one person to, like, win the prize of answering the puzzler. And then, of course, they would answer questions about cars. And the third half of the show was a new puzzler and, of course, more questions about cars. Each show they did, like, 8 questions.
Hey guys, how you doing? This is Josh from Boise, Idaho.
Josh. What's happening, man?
I have a 2010 Ford Fusion, and I ripped it apart, basically, the interior. And after I put it back together, which I finally did, I have a handful of parts left over. Should I worry about it, or should I take it to the dealer?
No. We're gonna straighten this out right on the phone here.
Okay.
How many pieces have you got?
Probably about half a dozen.
Are they mostly fasteners or nuts and bolts? Yeah, things like that.
Probably mostly fasteners, a few nuts and bolts, and a few screws.
Well,
Now,
what could you have taken apart on a 2010? The car's brand new. What did you do?
I was afraid you were going to ask this.
Oh, you knew we were going to ask.
Okay. I was picking up a present for my son, and I was in the car, and I lost my son's present in the car. My son's present happened to be a boa constrictor.
And people would call in, they would leave a message, and then they would be called back by the producers of the show at the time of airing. Click and Clack did not hear the calls beforehand, so their reactions to the problem are always their own thoughts on the idea. They don't research anything beforehand at all.
No. And she said that my timing belt should have been changed at 80,000 miles. So I called my mechanic, who said that it didn't have to be. And then, actually, my fiancé called my mechanic. So now she's saying it should be because anything over 80,000 miles, I'm driving on borrowed time. And my fiancé, because we're getting married this year and we just bought a house, doesn't want to spend the money.
See, I'm not even sure your car has a timing belt.
It has to, doesn't it?
Your car may have a chain.
Okay.
Did you consult the Nissan dealer?
No.
See, now, if this was a high-tech show,
we'd have a
computer next to us. We would be able immediately to check the specifications, and we would be able to tell you without any question whether or not this car had a timing belt or a timing chain.
Well,
On
we
the
do
other
have
hand-
a technical advisor. Wait a minute, we're looking for him.
No, he's not here.
But either way, doesn't it need to be changed at
No,
some
it
point?
does not. If it's a belt,
Okay.
it does need to be changed at some point. Usually, it's at 60,000 miles.
Okay.
A timing chain, on the other hand, being a chain and made out of chrome steel, does not have to be changed until it starts doing ugly things, which it usually doesn't even do.
Okay, no, if it's going to do something ugly, then what's it going to do? Like, how am I going to know?
What usually happens to these, I mean, assuming it has a chain,
Okay.
and I don't remember.
And you could call the dealer. You should call the dealer, because if it has a belt, you're really well over the time that it should have been replaced.
Okay.
And your mother, Nosy Nellie, Nancy, is right.
Okay.
However, if you have a chain, what typically happens is one of the chain tensioners or the guides will break, and it'll be accompanied by a constant grinding noise.
Right.
Yeah.
You'll hear
It'll
every
sound
time
like your blender is on.
Yeah. That kind of noise all the time when the engine's
Or like you're driving my brother's 63 Dart.
Correct.
Okay.
So if the engine is quiet, assume that all is well and ignore this whole thing.
Okay.
Assuming that you don't have a belt.
Okay.
But you should at least make the phone call
Okay.
and find out if you have a belt or a chain.
She did make the phone call, and we couldn't answer.
These calls would talk about a car problem or a funny sound or an issue with a mechanic or something they don't know if they need to repair or not. And Click and Clack would listen and develop a theory on why the car wasn't working.
Yeah, well, tell us the circumstances under which it howls.
When it's cold in the morning, that's the only thing. And it howls like a dog.
Does the car have to be moving?
It's moving, yes. It's usually when it gets to about 55, 58 miles an hour.
And does it sound like this?
No, it's more like ow, ow, ow.
Oh, intermittent like that? Ow, ow.
Yeah, it doesn't always. Sometimes it's got better. It's starting to sustain and hold that note, you know?
And it doesn't, does the pitch of the sound seem to change as you speed up?
Not really.
Well, do you speed up ever?
No, usually I kind of slow down.
You kind of
actually,
slow
when I hear
down.
that.
And when you do, when you get below 58, it actually just
It'll just disappear. It just stops.
immediately disappears.
Yeah, it just kind of goes away.
Then it's not what I think both of us thought it was.
What did you think it was?
I thought it was a differential. But
Really?
but it's not.
Really?
I take it back. That's why I didn't say it. I don't have to take it back.
You just said it.
Someone look at the alternate.
So the callers would describe their problem to the brothers, and Click and Clack would listen,
Usually
ask
with
follow-up
sounds.
questions, and on air try and diagnose the problem. And again, they have no reference materials, and they had not heard these calls before entering the studio. So that's their live response. And that's the show. That's it. The best science podcast.
I had someone look at the alternator, and they said that was fine, so it's not bad.
Does it? Oh, can you tell what part of the car it's coming from?
There is no limitation. We won't challenge completely. In the next generation, GMC Terrain AT4. We are professional grade.
With the Planet Fitness Black Card, you'll get your first month free when you join today. Sign up for just $1 down, $24.99 a month, and get your first month free.
The engine? It's coming from the...
It's coming from the front.
I think so, yeah.
But are you sure? But I'm going to ask a question that you may not be able to answer. But when we fail to provide you with an adequate answer today, this may help the next person.
Okay.
So I just want to prepare you for the worst.
Oh, no.
Will it make the noise, or can you get it to make the noise if you sit there at a stop and just rev the engine up to the speed at which it would be going if you were doing 58 miles an hour?
We tried that, and it does not do that, no.
And
it doesn't do it when it's warm either. It's only when it's cold.
That's
okay. We gotta run through the list of things that could make a noise like this.
I want you to know we're working on this very hard. Okay. and this effort represents our combined intellect, which some have
then you
compared,
should get it right.
which some have compared to that of a two-car garage
door
opener.
No, that's got some smarts in it.
So people call into the show with a science problem. My car does this. Please help, right? And Click and Clack ask follow-up questions. They try to develop a statement of what the problem is. When does the car make this sound and when does it not make this sound? How fast are you going? What is the temperature outside? Developing an idea of what the problem could be.
I'm having problems with all of the other solutions because they involve stuff that's turning, and stuff that's turning typically doesn't suddenly make noise at a given speed. It makes a noise which increases in either volume or pitch when you reach some speed.
I'm gonna make you one more suggestion, and this
Yeah.
may do. You have a roof rack though, huh?
Well, it's got the basic thing that they
I don't
all
think
Subarus have.
I don't think it's that because that wouldn't explain the cold.
No.
Right.
One thing that would explain the cold is a bad speedometer cable.
Ooh.
Ooh, you know.
All right.
Now you mentioned that one time when the needle kind of went crazy.
It bounced?
Yes.
Oh!
It went...
Frank!
Yeah, I'd forgotten that. That just happened
You're
one
a
time.
bleeding genius!
Well, there you go. Information they didn't have.
It could be that. And the easy thing to do is to disconnect the speedometer at the transmission. It's very easy to do. There's a cable with a little rubber boot over it and a clip.
So, I don't know about you guys, but when I hear them talking, I just fall into it. I'm there. I'm with them. I'm trying to figure out the problem. I've got my brain turned on and I'm working my way through it. And, is that a normal reaction to this kind of thing? It
has to do with the way they're presenting it.
Yeah.
They're asking questions, and they're not just asking yes or no questions. They're asking questions that gets the person who's giving them the information to think about it.
Right.
They're making sure that the person that they're trying to help is engaged in the process.
Right.
They're not following a rote script like you hear when something goes wrong with your internet.
Have you tried turning it off and back on again?
Yeah. You know what the script is. You've called them enough times. You know exactly what they're going to ask, and you're able to tell them, I have done these steps already. Can we get to the next one?
Please press 1 to be overcharged. Please press 2 to be completely ignored or belittled.
Right,
Or
exactly.
to be ignored and overcharged and made to wait an extra length of time before we actually put the person on the line.
Please press 4 if you're going to scream at an empty phone.
Right.
Which means it automatically hangs up on you.
Right.
The other thing.
Well, I mean, I do this. I also did this with House. You know, when I'd watch House, I would be in it to figure it out. The game was to try and figure out the illness before House did.
Fair enough. Well,
But
as I say,
with
though, is
House, we had an active background in medical, you know, a bit of active medical background training. With Car Talk, I have almost no car training, had almost no car training. I went in with the knowledge, you know, in the 80s, in the late 80s, I went into listening Car Talk with the knowledge that when a car stops working, it's usually one of two things. It's either not getting air, or it's not getting fuel, or it's not getting spark. You know, that's how to... Is that a normal way, though? Is this sort of puzzle-solving brain on a normal way to engage with the world?
it should be.
I agree. I agree.
Something I want to point out, though. How many different female callers did they have already?
A decent number. They did a pretty good job of pretty 50-50. If I remember correctly.
They asked the same kind of questions between every caller.
Yes, they did not treat women any differently than men. Well, no, they kind of did. They kind of did. They treated most men like idiots.
Right.
The assumption was that a guy is going to be dumb, a woman not so much. That was the assumption. There was no assumption about women being bad drivers. It's just that men are idiots.
All right, fair enough. But they actually asked and listened to the question. They asked the questions. They actually listened to the responses that were given, and they made suggestions based on that.
Right.
They didn't get that first caller with the water in the tank. They didn't do what I have seen a lot of mechanics that would do, which is, well, why'd you put the water hose in the tank? And immediately go the route of...
Well, because that doesn't solve the question. That's not the... Their goal is to answer questions.
Yes.
Their
goal
no,
is
I
to
see
answer
what you mean.
questions, and they're being... They were very much... We are answering the question regardless of who's posing the question.
Yes.
I've had some interesting run-ins with mechanics. I've had some very interesting run-ins, including I took my truck to one to have them drain and replace the transmission filter. I had just redone the spark plugs and wires on it about a month before this. I had just redone the air filter about 2 months before this.
Okay.
The last thing that I needed done was the transmission filter to be replaced, new fluid. I had to call and call and call and then show up and take my truck back from them because they decided the truck needed new plugs, new wires, and a new air filter. And they did not do the transmission thing because their mechanic said, oh, these are all old parts. This is what needed to be replaced, not what was actually happening. So I really appreciate, at least in that clip, that they actually listened to what she said to solve the problem versus going, oh, you've said this and we are going off on this other tangent because we know what the problem is.
Right.
And whatever you're saying isn't going to change that. We have our preconceived notion of the problem, and it's this.
Right. You know, I think for them the ego of it was really, you know, divorced from the action of it.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think, you know, a lot of mechanics out there in the world are very attached to their ego.
I think you're probably correct.
You know, that ego is poison. I realized earlier today that I see a lot of my father in myself. A lot of stuff I do, I hear my dad's voice. I can see the looks on my face that look like his. And it's not a bad thing. But when I realized that I'm becoming the man my father could have become if he'd have let go of his ego. If he hadn't let his ego get in his way. And I think that sort of that ego in the way is... Now, also, you know, a lot of these mechanics, that ego in the way is also means more money for them. They want to do whatever they can to keep you in there longer, charge you as much as they can, do as much work as they can. And these guys weren't like that. These guys weren't profit motive driven. You know? Especially on the radio show, they were just there to answer questions, not there to make a profit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that has something to do with, you know... I mean, I think they're good guys. They're decent guys.
Yeah.
You know.
Clip. You pull the clip out, and you'll pull the cable right out of the transmission.
Okay.
And you'll no longer have a speedometer, but you'll no longer have the source of the noise, perhaps, either.
And then if I get pulled over for speeding, I tell you, you guys told me to do it, right?
Yeah, unfortunately, you won't know when you're doing 58 miles an hour. So just floor it.
No, but you'll know if it's fixed.
Oh, okay.
Let us know what happens.
All right. I'll do that.
See you, Bryony.
And this is the scientific method, right? They come up with an idea for what the problem could be, and instead of saying, I think it's this, they say, well, what happens when this happens? Like in their brain, they're thinking, if what I think is the cause of this weird sound is the cause, also something else would happen. And so they ask a follow-up question, and then they're like, aha. And it's just such a pleasure to listen to. You get to listen to in real time a master mechanic solve a problem, and in the process you also learn about cars. It's an incredibly interesting show to listen to, and sometimes they immediately agree on a solution, and sometimes there's some pushback from the brothers on who's right. And so they keep kind of upping the ante and asking more questions and trying to convince the other person that they know the answer. And you know what else is really cool, and also in this scientific method, if they don't know, they say, I don't know. They say, maybe this, but let us know if you solve it.
Okay, we have a cattle trailer that holds about 7 or 8 cows, and it has electric brakes, and we pull it with a pickup. And
These brakes are operated by a servo that's attached to your brake pedal.
Right, it's electric attached to the brake pedal.
Right.
And the latest problem is when you put on the four-way flashers. The brakes engage every time the light flashes.
Excellent.
And that becomes a real problem when you're going up a hill and have to put on the flashers at 40 miles an hour. It seems to slow you down a good bit when you're climbing the hill.
Right, because the brakes are grabbing, releasing, grabbing, releasing.
Correct.
I'm sure that we can help you with this if you answer just one small question for me.
Okay, great.
How do electric brakes work?
I don't know how they
You figure
work.
they're hydraulic?
No, they're not hydraulic. They're electromechanical.
So what's in the wheel instead of a cylinder? A little electric motor?
A screw.
A screw.
It's irrelevant how they work.
It doesn't matter. Excellent. We're going to give them an answer without knowing how they work.
Right.
Okay, Paul, this is going to be good. Get a pencil. I can hardly wait to hear this.
I'll pass it on to our friendly garage.
Well, no, I mean, the key issue here is that the emergency flashers are turning on the brakes.
Correct.
Somehow or another, current is getting fed to those brakes when the flashers are on, so it seems pretty clear that you've got a wire crossed. And
that's funny. I thought you had a wire crossed.
And then sometimes the callers would come back for Stump the Chumps, where they give the
Oh, I
answer of
loved
what the
Stump
problem
the
was.
Chumps.
And
Oh, yeah.
I just think that is such a pure, beautiful description of how a scientist's brain works. They have a problem, they ask a bunch of questions, they have a hypothesis for what the problem could be, and then they give the caller an action. Like, if it is your brakes, do this test, and then go tell the mechanic it's your brakes. And it's so good. It's such a good science podcast. It might be the best science podcast.
Well, I have a 1990 Honda.
Now's the time for a great deal on a new Honda. It's time to drive smarter.
Civic, and it has 125,000 miles on it.
What? Well timed on the car.
You start giving us car commercials.
Right. Also, really well timed on the Honda commercial. The caller had a Honda Civic. It's a Honda commercial. Beautifully timed.
And recently, I've started to hear a tapping sound, and it's getting louder whenever I turn the wheel, either to the right or to the left. That seems to be coming from the right front wheel.
yeah, well, we have no idea.
Okay, thanks for calling. It's been nice talking about Belmont. See you later.
You have a bad axle.
A bad axle?
Yeah, the right front axle needs to be replaced. That's where the noise is coming from, the passenger side front.
Uh-huh.
And the axle's going to break.
Ooh.
Yeah, and you're going to die a fiery death. No.
How long has it been doing this?
I would say a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Don't buy any green bananas.
Get it someplace. It won't, if it breaks, it won't kill you, but it will leave you stuck.
Okay.
And again, while this is happening, the listener is learning about cars. The listener is learning how to ask questions and figure out if what's going on with their car is an emergency or is cosmetic or is something they should ask a mechanic about. Like which engine light is an emergency and which can you ignore until your next oil change? When is something not safe to drive? When do you need to see your mechanic, or when can you fix this thing yourself?
I was about 16 years old, and I was driving from South Bend, Indiana.
Oh, it was your fault.
Shut up. Okay, I'm driving. It's a...
Now that the show is off the air, I feel so insecure in my vehicle out in the world. Because if my vehicle breaks down, I can't call them and ask.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why their existence made me feel safer, but it made me feel like there was, someone who could answer car questions. It made me feel like there was an expert for any question I had. There was somebody, even if it wasn't them and it wasn't cars, there was somebody. And I feel like, their death, it going off the air, really sort of coincided with the sort of the slow decay of expertise.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of what is so unnerving about it.
I think it was about a 1982 Chevy Citation.
And
Ugly,
what year would this have been? This would have been like 1982.
This was in 83. I think the car was maybe a year old.
Yeah. So you're driving from South Bend to where?
I'm trying to get down to the Indiana University down in Bloomington, Indiana. It's about a 4.5-hour drive.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, I drive for about like half an hour, and the temperature light starts kind of coming on. I mean, it's kind of coming on, it's going off, it's coming on. It's not doing it in any kind of consistent way. It'll blink on for a while. And so anyway, I was just like, okay, this is an electrical problem, so forget
So it's like, this is a glitch.
Yeah, right. Because we've had some glitchy cars before. We've had some real lemons, so I'm like, this is just another weirdo car thing.
Yeah.
So I go into the glove compartment, get out a piece of tape, put it over the light. But that doesn't really stop me. I keep going until the car actually just stops. I mean, I can't actually go any further.
Yeah.
And now I'm kind of like in southern Indiana, and I get towed down to this little mechanic shop.
Peter Piper used the smart buying tools from Amazon Business and positively prospered.
Living with opioid addiction can be a struggle. Supplicate with counseling is for adults with moderate to severe opioid addiction.
Mm-hmm. They put a new thermostat in the car, but they told me to go back to South Bend. They're like, this is, they said this is like a Band-Aid, but, go back to South Bend. And, of course, I didn't. I drove another 3 hours, went down to Indiana, Bloomington, drove back the next day. And, the car was fine. I don't
The light is not on.
Oh, no.
Tape's off and the light's out.
Light's not blinking anymore. Problem solved.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so I get back to South Bend, and, I thought everything was fine. Those mechanics just fixed it, thermostat problem, whatever. And my dad then got in the car to go to work. He works about 10 minutes from our house, and the car just blows up. It just stopped.
Oh.
The engine block was almost melted together. It was a major problem. And my dad was just utterly confused. And, of course, he came home and asked me if anything happened. And I said, I don't know, gosh.
Back when they had more than one light
Because,
on
the,
the dash,
because the thermostat was malfunctioning, and when the light started to come on, it was telling you the engine was running hot.
But
You
why
ignored
didn't
it.
it just stay on?
Huh?
Why didn't the light just stay on? Why was it going on and off?
Well, it was probably staying on if you put the black tape over it, but you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
So the light was staying on enough to let you know that the thing was overheating, and the engine got hotter and hotter, and you began to melt the pistons and melt the rings and deform the crankshaft and stretch out the connecting rods. And then when they put the thermostat in it, the new thermostat, you must have just averted a meltdown by seconds.
Oh, you think? Oh,
I think so.
How you made it back how you did another 6 hours of driving is somewhat miraculous, actually.
Oh.
And you are right in thinking that you had nothing to do with it, but you're wrong.
And it can only be
Because you
attributed
did.
to the fine engineering of this Chevrolet engine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really? I always thought that was a crappy car, but maybe not.
It's so amazing how the show is not stated as like, these men are going to teach you about cars, even though that's literally what the show is. Because the whole time, they're being very funny. They're cracking jokes. Something amazing about car talk is that it is a subject that a lot of people feel useless at. Like, cars are big machines, they're expensive, they're scary, you don't want to break your car. And these brothers are laughing and having a good time, and they are empowering you to solve your own problems. They want you to fix your own car. They want everyone's garage to be a hacker's haven. And I love that. And I think you can tell, because a lot of these callers are women.
Turn the steering wheel.
Is it worse if you're sitting still?
Yes. And also, if this will help you at all, we took it to the dealer. There was a recall on something else, and while we had it there, we said, "What do you think it is?"
Uh-huh.
And they suggested tie rods.
Oh. Well, it could be a tie rod end or a ball joint. And these tie rods on this vehicle, if I'm not mistaken, cannot be lubricated.
Okay.
And neither can the ball joints.
But it definitely sounds like it's coming from underneath the car.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. What happens is once the grease escapes, or if there wasn't enough grease put in at the factory, eventually water gets in there and rusting takes place. And that little ball and socket joint that's either the tie rod or the ball joint will begin to go.
The same.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not good.
You can. The dealer couldn't find it?
They couldn't do anything?
Well, we didn't have them mess with it. We took it to a mechanic who we trust. He replaced the right tie rod end. It didn't help at all, but he said while he had it up on the lift, he'd turn the steering wheel and he didn't hear anything at all.
Well, you wouldn't hear it on the lift because he took the load off the suspension.
Of course. Right.
What he's going to do is put it on the ground.
Crawl underneath.
With his stethoscope. And he can put that on the ball joints, and this thing has inner tie rod ends too. And I'm sure he replaced an outer. And he can have you turn the wheel and reproduce the noise, and he's going to, in 2 minutes, he's going to figure out exactly where it's coming from. And when he gets the spot that's making the noise, it'll be so loud, there'll be no mistaking where the noise is coming from.
Or he can use the time-honored mechanics principle of
replace everything.
He did replace the tie rod end.
Yeah,
well,
not enough.
That hardly qualifies as everything. This guy's way too honest.
I just wrote women in car stores, blah, blah, blah. But, like, yeah. I mean, do I have to say this? This is a thing that happens. Like, I show up to buy a car, and I have my license, and I have my credit statements and my W-2, and I write a check with my bank account and my name on it to get the car. And then when I come back to pick it up, I bring my partner so he can drive the old car home, and somehow now the car dealer is only talking to him. Somehow now his name is on the title first, even though it's my loan, and I've never even talked about him being on the loan. This is a real story that actually happened. Like, as soon as a man comes in, it's like you're not even a person. You're not even there anymore. They're just talking to the guy, and it's so frustrating. It's the worst. And, like, you wish you could just leave and be like, fuck this guy. But, like, you're already so deep in the car buying process that you're just like, whatever. And I feel like Click and Clack are not Tom and Ray, the real names. I feel like you can tell that they do not give off that vibe because women feel totally comfortable calling. They have the exact same response to the women that they do the men. Like, you could do this yourself. You should try this. Don't pay a mechanic to do this. You can do this. It's great. It's like they've created the perfect space where you feel like you could fix your own car. They are literally teaching you how to fix your car. It's so good. And also, I think you can tell how good the show is from its, like, long-lasting popularity.
Right.
I had a meeting with some Nebula people.
Welcome to the 100-degree sweat test. Which one of these two antiperspirants can stand up to the heat? Looks like ordinary.
It was on for most of my life.
We'll do that bit later. I told them about this video, and one of the people was like, oh, I used to listen to that with my dad. I loved that show.
Christy, do you know if Daddy-O knows us?
Yeah, he does.
He does?
Yeah, our whole family likes the show.
Cool.
In that case, he's likely to hang up on us or not.
Dick Conklin.
Hey, Richard.
Yes.
This is Tom and Ray Magliozzi from Car Talk?
Ah, I'm blessed.
Well, not necessarily.
No.
We were just talking to your daughter, Christy.
You're right.
Yeah. Well, she called to cleanse her soul.
Okay.
She called to describe to us a little incident that occurred in 1982 with your Chevy Citation.
You may not remember this. You may have tried to block this out.
Yeah, seared, I think, is a proper verb.
Yeah, she said it like through a rod.
You threw a rod.
Through a rod.
And you have no idea why this happened. Have you had your suspicions all these years?
Lack of oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do you know anything else about it?
No.
You don't know all the dirty details.
There's some things that paterfamilias doesn't want to know.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to tell you all the details.
She didn't go home.
She didn't go home.
She didn't take their advice because the light went out. She went to the party down in Bloomington, then drove all the way back to South Bend the next day.
Ooh.
And gave you the car, making you think that everything was just hunky-dory. And she's been living a life of sin,
deception,
crime, and deception.
Well,
now I think you would ask if she recounted the story to us correctly. You would ask her if anything unusual had happened on her trip, and she denied it.
Yeah.
She said, no, fine, no problems.
Well, she can't live with this lie anymore.
She's with us right now, Dick.
Oh, no.
Yeah, Christy?
Hi, Dad.
And I feel like this is the exact vibe. I also used to listen to Car Talk as a kid, and I loved it. And I had no idea that I was listening to reruns. I really thought everyone was just driving 30-year-old cars. And I still listen to it as an adult, especially if I have like a 9-hour drive somewhere. It's great to just be stuck in a car and also listening to people complain about cars. And
Justin Slattery. I live in Atlanta, Georgia.
Hi, Justin.
And, well, I've got a little problem with my car. I've got an 88 Honda Civic, and it's got about over 156,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
And it's running good. My dad's a mechanic. He works on it every now and then. But the problem doesn't really lie in the engine. It's the car's speakers. Every time it rains down here, water floods in through the speakers, and I don't know what to do about it.
Floods in through the speakers?
Yeah, like when I'm driving, it just starts pouring in through the speakers, and if I'm listening to music, it shoots out. I mean, I've even been listening to your show before, and it just like totally cuts out, and water starts pouring in. My feet get wet. It's embarrassing. It's
Do you listen mostly to Handel's water music?
I don't know.
Where are the speakers mounted?
It's in the door.
Yeah, the doors are filling up with water, and the water can't get out.
That's easy.
Yeah, I've been trying to figure out where the water's coming in from. I've even asked my dad about it. He doesn't even know what to do.
Your dad is a mechanic and he doesn't know what to do?
Well, he works on the engine and stuff. He's not. I mean, he doesn't. It's not a mechanic as a job. I mean, it's not a profession.
No, he's just a
as
funsies.
a hobby. You know what I mean?
A funsies guy, yeah.
Funsies guy.
The doors can frequently get water in them because where the window comes up is not absolutely tight.
Oh, not by any means.
So, I mean, in most cars, they make an attempt to make that tight. They put that little piece of felt that's along the edge there.
Yeah.
So the window rides between these two little pieces of stuff.
And there's a little weather strip that goes with it touches the glass, so it actually acts like a squeegee when you roll the window up and down.
But it ain't foolproof by a long shot.
And it's not designed to be. It's not, and the door is designed to get water in it, but there are holes which allow the water to come out.
Right.
Yours are plugged. You need to drill some holes.
Yeah, they figured we can't keep the water out, so it would be good if we arranged to have the water go out when it comes in.
So those little holes are designed to allow the water to exit, and the backup system is the speaker.
So where should I drill holes at?
Oh, right in the side of the door. It's 10 years old. What do you care?
Yeah, I would drill the holes closer to the bottom and not up near the top because,
I mean, the holes might be. I mean, the holes are there. They're just plugged up. If you open the door and lie down on your back, you'll see what used to be the holes because they'll be they'll be round.
Okay.
Well, they may not even be round, but you might be able to poke around. I don't know what they look like, what the door drain holes look like in an 88 Civic. I can't recall ever contemplating them.
No.
But if you can't find them, you can drill a couple of holes with an electric drill.
Yeah.
Okay.
It won't hurt anything. There's nothing down there to hurt.
Okay.
Drill some big holes. Don't worry about it. It'll be fun.
Okay.
See you, Justin.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Hey, good luck, man.
Okay.
Thanks for calling.
Hey, no problem. Bye.
Bye-bye.
So the brothers became celebrities after the show went national because everybody loves car talk. They were on Arthur.
You know, you never forget the first one that you ruined. Anyway, Arthur, what kind of a sound is the car making?
Do the sound! Do the sound! They were on an episode of Sabrina. They were in the Cars movies. They had a cameo that was just for me. I was very excited to see that.
I remember this guy from the slums. He was so rusty he didn't even cast a shadow.
You can see his journey of the character.
In 1995, there was a single season with 8 episodes, but only 6 ever aired, of a show called The George Wendt Show, which was supposed to be based on car talk. Apparently, George and his brother Pat ran a garage in Madison, Wisconsin, and they also hosted a radio show called Points and Plugs. But the show got canceled really quickly. It didn't have anything to do with cars from the reviews I've read. It was just like regular 1990s hijinks. I found a single clip of this show.
And that's why Mimi and I would like to have a baby with your sperm.
I think this is lost media. And it got a lot harder to Google because George Wendt died very recently. He probably won't be remembered for the George Wendt Show. I cannot find anywhere. But of course, he was also on much more successful comedy shows like Fancy Nancy. But don't worry, there was a show based on the Clackett brothers which starred Ray and Tom, and I got access to it. This is a PBS show called Click and Clacks As the Wrench Turns, and I ordered this on eBay, and
oh my God.
I was so confused because the thing is, children don't drive cars. Why would they watch a car repair show? But boy, oh boy, is this not a children's show. Like, the guy is doing shots of Lagavulin, and the first episode is about how the government is a scam, and they Click and Clack simultaneously run for president to try and steal campaign funds to support NPR. This is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. I had planned to talk about it and do like a recap, but it's just so weird. I can't do it. Anyway.
The bespoke AI Family Hub Plus refrigerator with AI vision inside.
You might not think that
I am utterly, absolutely curious all of a sudden.
All right. When she said that the title was As the Wrench Turns, I knew it had to be an adult show of some sort.
As the World Turns. It's
No.
sort of...
Yeah. I mean, it's a play on As the World Turns, but
right. Oh my goodness gracious.
We're going to run for president and steal campaign funds to fund NPR.
Yes! That is my platform. That is my campaign platform. Trevor Stewart, 2028. I am running for president in order to get funding for NPR.
You know what? What year did she say what year this came out?
No, I don't know. Did she?
I wasn't listening close enough.
I am announcing my candidacy for 2028 now, and I'm running on the platform of stealing money for NPR. Hi, Jesse Crystal. Much
Hang
love.
on, I need to look this up.
Trevor Stewart, 2024 or 2028, money for NPR.
2008. So this was a 2008 series with 10 episodes.
All right.
This is a little series that is just shy. It's about 3 years shy of being 20 years old. Well, no.
I'm
8
in.
to 18.
I'm down.
8 to 18, 28. So, 20 years ago, the thought of having to steal presidential funds to fund NPR was laughable, but not needed.
Today's pre-rolls brought to you by the downtown. Exactly, Kevin. Today's pre-rolls brought to you by the Hidden Leaf, downtown Charlottesville, 105 West Main Street on the downtown mall, above the Brick, Suite 200, between the Green Cauldron and Hamilton's. A great place to go with your great buds to get some great buds, bud? Tripped over that sentence. And they are great place to go with some great buds to get some great buds, bud? They have the lowest prices in town, according to my own personally highly biased research, by which I mean I was incredibly high when I did my biased research. And the only thing better than their bud is their customer service.
Apparently they have a run-in with Antiques Roadshow.
Website is thehiddenleafcville.com. That's thehiddenleafcville.com. That was difficult. They have a run-in. Never mind. Of course they do. Of course they do.
So let's see. Clicking Pack 1 and 2 are the first two episodes. Then there's Boston Blackout, Pasta Wars. Campaign. Outsourced. The heck, this is not in any particular order. That's weird.
All right, here you go. Here's your order list. Here.
Campaign, Outsourced, Boston Blackout, Pasta Wars, Gigantic Motors, Zulu versus Fidel, Abercrombie and Wrench, Pocket Full of Motor Oil, Gotcha, and Casino.
All 10 episodes.
Oh, this sounds amazing. It sounds amazing. I can't. I don't even know. This sounds absolutely amazing. All right.
That the show holds up, but I guarantee you it does.
It's the tires' improper size that is causing the problem.
I'm surprised that the tire guys didn't
I
notice this.
Well, I'll tell you why. Because they sold you these tires because they didn't have the right size. And they said, because they do this all the time. You go in and you say, look, I want the 14 P235s. Oh, we don't have those.
Yeah.
We got P289.5, but they'll fit. And it turns out that they often do, but sometimes they don't. And if there's not much clearance allowed in the original design, then it's possible for the tire to come in contact with part of the suspension or part of the body, and that scores away some of the rubber and eventually causes the tire to fail.
And unfortunately, they're going to have to give you 4 new tires.
Well, the ones in the back and the front may be all right if you don't ever rotate them, but I think you really want the 4 properly sized
I would
tires.
like them to be all the same.
It's shocking to me how enjoyable it is for 2 dudes to solve car problems in like a 1987 Toyota Corolla in 2025. And I highly recommend that you listen to it if you haven't, or if you haven't in a while. NPR still releases like different cuts of episodes as a podcast, and you can go back and listen to the old episodes. It's just such a nice science type of media that teaches you things while you want to listen and have a good time.
The problem is that I'm very lucky. I have a daughter and her little family living on the other side of town from where we live.
Yeah.
And I like to go to her house I call it the low road because there's a big hill between my house and her house. And my husband says it's so much longer to go that way, I should just go up and over the hill. I don't know which way we use more gas, and I know which way you use more time because my way I have to go through a traffic light.
Well, your way is longer, both in distance and in time, but it's shorter in so far as you don't have to climb an unnecessary hill.
Yeah, he says, well, you go on the other side, you go down again.
There you go.
And so whatever you've spent going up, you regain going down. Is he an engineer?
Yes. Doesn't it sound like an engineer?
Of course. It's a classic
Lockpick says,
engineering
my car
approach,
has an
which is
analog
entirely
clock.
wrong. And is he listening? I hope he's not listening.
Well, actually, he is.
Because we're going to dump all over him.
I agree
I'm
with you,
not
Lockpick.
so sure, Alice. So.
I mean, theoretically,
I love old cars.
You want to host a low-key brunch, but you're getting married.
I miss
a bachelorette brunch.
I miss driving a standard transmission. A 2-progress bar system, yeah. Old enough that analog clocks make sense to me. Yeah.
Driving a manual. The
I
best
miss
security system for a vehicle in the United States nowadays.
Right? I do. I miss driving a manual transmission.
Actually, the best one would be a manual that's a diesel.
Oh.
Because then they have no idea about the glow plugs.
Right. My left leg feels so useless while I'm driving these days. Always wants to do something. I don't even have my parking brake isn't a pedal. It's a little push button thing. Not a lever either. And so like my left leg feels like it is just absolutely just there for show.
There was one thing that I always found dangerous about a manual transmission.
Drive an 18-speed truck for a decade, then tell me you don't want an automatic? Oof. You know, I've always wanted to be a truck driver. I've always wondered what it's like to drive that many gears. What were you saying, Peanut Gallery?
There was one thing that I always found dangerous about driving a manual.
What's that?
Switching back to an automatic and slamming on the clutch.
Yeah. Going to change gears and throwing it into neutral. Yeah, I used
going
to do
change
that.
gears, you've got to hit the clutch. There's only one pedal that your left foot's hitting. And you're not going from second to third. You're going from second to the tree.
Right. Second to stop. All right, back to it.
Theoretically.
Okay.
That the energy, I mean, if this were, if this were a physics problem when he went to school and he did a physics problem, and the energy expended going up would be regained almost, except for losses from friction and
Right, potential
going
energy,
down,
yeah.
a potential energy, kinetic energy, all that stuff would be a great theory. That's assuming that you didn't mind if you were going 85 miles an hour when you hit the bottom of the hill, which you don't. And you do mind, and that's why you have to use the brakes.
Right.
It's the same as if you were walking.
Yeah.
Which way would you walk?
I would walk the long way because it's so much easier.
You ain't kidding. Ask him if he had to walk. Would he walk up over the hill and down?
Well, a better question is, would you bicycle?
Oh, your bicycle, you'd go the long way.
Absolutely.
For sure,
Every
for sure.
time.
Every time.
Every
right.
time.
There is no formula for how much gas you use going up a hill.
Sure, I mean, we could calculate all of that, but
I doubt we could calculate. Somebody could calculate it.
The husband probably could calculate
He's
it.
got nothing to do. He's retired.
And that's exactly what gets him into trouble, because he could make all those calculations, and the answer would be So what?
See, what you can't take advantage of, as you pointed out at the beginning of the call, is you can't take advantage of the potential energy that you gain by getting to the top of the hill.
Yeah.
Because you must slow down.
You have to brake.
You have to brake. So
Yeah.
that being the case, I think I would always opt for the roundabout way, especially considering that the fact that you're only climbing an additional 20 feet in elevation, and it's only costing you half a mile.
Oh, wow. You came in on my side.
We came in on your side completely, but we would always come in against an engineer because they're all bozos.
I will admit, though, that a lot of the humor is dad humor, and it's quite dated. For example, in this book, there is like a whole bit about how, man, girls love dolls and weddings, and it's just weird. Like, he's mad he has to pay for his daughter's wedding, and he's like, but man, she wants a wedding, and it's like, you're not obligated to pay for her wedding. Either don't pay for it, or pay for it and shut up. Quit bitching about it. Like, that's a choice you're making. Like, it's just weird. There's also a lot of I hate my wife jokes, which is a huge thing from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Just like...
It was 70s and 80s.
You going for the spicy garlic Italian panini? Or maybe the new bacon mac and cheese panini? Wait, they have...
It's really interesting how some jokes are like timeless, like fart jokes, and some jokes kind of are funny, and then there's a period where they're like not funny, and then there's a period where they just don't make sense. And I think that's where we're at with I hate my wife jokes. Like in the 90s, guys would be like, I'm totally not gay, I hate my wife. And then in the 2000s, people were like, why are you, if you hate your wife, just leave. What do you mean? And I think if you turned on NPR's Car Talk for your 10-year-old son so you could drive from Massachusetts to Maine, it's going to take 5 hours, and he heard one of the jokes where the guy's like, man, I hate my wife, she's always yelling, he would just assume, this 10-year-old child would just be like, oh, that's an unfortunate situation. He wouldn't even register it as a joke. 'Cause like, it's just not funny. But that's how it was in the 90s. And I don't really think that I hate my wife jokes are a sexism, because there was also the, my husband is a big, fat, stupid dum-dum, right? Those were like both the jokes, you know, like the shows with the big, stupid husbands, they would be like, I hate my wife. But like, really, they were in love. It was a very weird time.
Yep.
Anyway, there's a lot of those. While I'm talking about this book, there is a whole section from Tom on education. Tom is the one who went and got his MBA and PhD, and he taught college courses. And he was also very vocal on the show about thinking higher education was a scam.
But wait a minute. Yes. Before you go, what do you teach there at Presbyterian College?
I teach math there.
Math?
Yes.
What kind of math?
Oh, you know, calculus, this and that, algebra.
Calculus.
So these are all kids who now will be able to calculate the area under a curve.
Yes.
And know the slope at any point on that curve.
Yes.
And when will they ever be using that, Kara?
Well, if you need to know the instantaneous velocity versus the average velocity, you would need some calculus.
And that's important. You know, my brother needs to know that when he drives his MG, because his average velocity is about 0, but he has been known to have a positive instantaneous velocity from time to time.
But Kara, if we like asked just a rough random sample of like 1 million people, when the last time was that they needed to know the instantaneous slope, what would those 1 million people say?
Okay. Now hold on. I don't know exactly, like I can't say, oh, I needed calculus in this moment. But I can say there are a whole bunch of problems that I've put off thinking about that require calculus to solve. Like, there's a whole lot of math and science that I want to get deeper on that require these maths, these higher education to do, that I can't do the math, so I just sort of floating in this theoretical area here. And in this moment, I also want to talk about Angela Collier, who's the one who says, you know, if you're if you're a physicist who isn't doing the math, you're not a physicist. Math is physics. And that hits me kind of hard because there's a certain amount of the math that I'm incapable of doing because I just can't, whatever that math is, I never got past, like, I never was able to figure it out. And it's, so this is sort of the, I personally think that we use these things, this calculus, we use this algebra, we use these higher educational things way more than we think we do. Way more than we think we do. And if we had these skills in our back pockets, we would attempt larger and larger equations. It's not that there's no reason to know it because we'll never use it. It's that if we know it, we will use it. That's my take on it. That's my humble opinion.
Huh?
You're stealing their money and teaching them junk that they'll never use.
But she has a job.
Go back to Presbyterian College and tell them that you quit.
Resign. I'd resign tomorrow.
That's right. In fact, well, you can make a forward statement. You say, I know that the stuff I'm teaching is complete.
What did you say, Kat?
I said that was a very well-timed hum. You finish saying that's my opinion, and then you hit play, and you've got him going, huh?
Yep. That was well timed.
Bull, and people will never use it, but I just can't stop.
Well, now I probably won't get hired back. So
well, you won't.
I won't be asked back after.
But see, the trouble is, if you don't take the job, some other bozo with a PhD.
So you might as well keep it.
Yeah,
you might as well keep it and keep teaching that area under the curve. You never know when
you never know when you're going to bump into it.
Yeah, somebody's got to do
it. Good God, what's with the American education system? Are we a bunch of morons to allow this to happen? Come on, I'm fed up with it. Fed up, I'm telling you.
He didn't take his pills this morning, but he'll be all right.
I'm not taking it anymore. I'm not going to take the pills anymore.
You need to settle down, Tom.
Yes, you are, Tommy. Or those guys with that funny jacket will be coming in to see you
and
again.
They won't be selling ice cream.
No, they won't. See you, Kara.
All right, thanks a lot. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
God.
He just hates the way education works. And he uses the example of, like, when you learn geometry, you learn it so you can learn calculus. And then you learn calculus so you can learn linear algebra. And no one is really teaching, like, you use calculus for this. And he has this argument where he was like, all the time I was teaching my MBA classes, and I knew that we never use this material. And it's very interesting that he's using himself as an example when he taught MBA classes, but then when he's describing how they never use anything good, he's talking about math and chemistry and things. Chemists do, in fact, use their chemistry knowledge. It's a weird argument. But you know what?
Right.
I respect his argument. I respect that he was a teacher, and then, of course, he used his platform to educate the world about cars. His opinion on education is not my favorite, but I totally get how he could land on that argument. And it was just a really interesting discussion on how people learn. And what he thought was best was get your hands dirty and learn how to do it, which is how the show becomes you can fix your own car. I just think it's really interesting. You can tell he's incredibly passionate about teaching. And I don't agree with his opinion or his assessment of higher education, but it's really interesting that that's how he got there. I love when people talk about those things, and obviously they incorporated it into how their show ran, and also their method of education worked for over 30 years on their very successful radio show.
Got an 88 Bronco 2 that has a steering problem. And whenever I make a narrow radius turn to the left, the steering wheel seems to get stopped or stuck in one spot, and then it releases suddenly after I've gone a little bit further.
After you've gone a little bit further?
Well, as the truck moves, anyways.
Oh, so you mean, as the truck moves, not that you've turned the steering wheel anymore.
Right, not that I've turned the steering wheel anymore.
So it's in the far left position.
Right.
This a 4-wheel drive Bronco?
No, it's a 2-wheel drive.
Oh, come on, we had an answer. We had a great answer. All right.
Either it's in the steering box or there's something that's hitting something when you turn the wheel. For example, you could be rubbing two pieces of the steering mechanism together.
Mm-hmm. Does this thing have a classic rolling ball box?
It has a recirculating ball, and it has a center link, and
it has all that
tie
stuff.
Rod ends and all that jazz.
It could be a bad gear.
Yeah, it could be a bad sector gear in the steering box, or it could be that one of the other pieces is binding up. It could be
could be
idler
something.
arm is binding up, but I wouldn't worry about it.
Well, that's good.
However, if it's likely to get worse, and if you start to notice it in other areas of the travel of the steering box, then I would replace the box because it has the potential to be dangerous.
Okay.
So, what do you think about the Jeep Wrangler?
Very spacious, lots of open air.
Could you make this today?
Could you?
Two problems. The first is that cars are just computers, right? Computers are much harder to fix than like large mechanical engines.
Right.
A lot of cars are electric, which makes things harder and more complicated. It would just be much harder to have this show in 2025 because all of it would be like plug in the little computer and read me what error code it is and then go check the book to see what error code it is.
Right.
It wouldn't be nearly as interesting. But then I was thinking, you can make it about something else. Just imagine like the radio show version of Stack Overflow. Like some guy just calls in and he's like, so I have data that's stored in a 1,000 by 100,000 table and I need to sort by column, but I need to maintain the row distribution. And then you just have two click and clacks, but it's like computer key click and clacks, and they're helping this guy write his C++ code. And that would be really interesting. Any craft or hobby, like knitting or painting or playing video games, if you have a large enough audience and you have hosts that are incredibly skilled and knowledgeable about the topic, it would be a great show. It probably couldn't be cars anymore, but what if it was something else? Am I encouraging everyone to start a podcast on their hobby? Yeah. Let's do it. More podcasts. Do we have enough podcasts? Is that a market we could all get into? But that's another problem. Cars have a mass appeal that other hobbies just don't. Like everyone in America, and this sucks. I don't like it. I don't like cars, by the way. I'm a trains guy now. But everyone in America has to have a car. Like America's big. We have been scammed out of a working public transport system that we are owed and we deserve. That's the one platform I'm running on when I run for president. Trains. In America, though, everyone has to drive a car. So the audience for people who are worried about having to fix their cars is everyone in America, and that's just never going to be true for any other hobby. The second problem is that I don't think you can recreate the dynamic between the hosts. Ray and Tom, 1 in a million pairing of people who are super knowledgeable, but also fun and funny, and also they're brothers. They grew up together. They have a relationship where they can like rib each other and they can improve each other and they can argue with each other without getting mad. But also, they're not professional comedians, right? So they're actually there to answer your car questions. They're not throwing out the science information to do a bit like an improv comedian would, right? It's all fun and games. And also they're answering your car questions. And they're never mean to the guests, even when they should be yelling at the guests. Like this woman who drove 3,000 miles with her dog on the cab of her truck, not the bed of her truck, which would also be a problem, on the cab. And they're just like, what are you doing? And I'm like, yell at her. This woman is insane. This poor dog.
Huh.
What the hell, lady?
Hi, Hope.
How are you?
Hi. I'm
Atlanta.
just fine, but I'm a university professor, so...
No kidding.
Yeah, I thought I wanted to talk about my car, but now that you sort of went into it with that student that wrote you, I feel...
Don't you feel bad,
to
huh?
take a position on this.
Well, I mean, I think you should feel very, very guilty. You're taking part in the giant scam known as college, quotes, education.
Okay, so I'm driving across the country. I'm moving to Atlanta. I have this great job, and I'm going to perpetuate the educational system of this country, which we've already discussed.
Bad as it may be, right.
And I'm driving across here. The dog's in the back of the pickup truck, and it is tied in with a tie-down type of apparatus.
Yeah. So it won't go flying out.
Well,
Not
that's
jumping out.
the idea.
That was the basic idea.
Yeah, exactly. And I started driving down the road, and the dog is not content just to stay in the back and look at this majestic country of ours go by on Highway 40.
Backwards. But he's puking at the same time.
No, she's facing frontward, actually. But by the time we got to Southern California, she had decided she wanted to ride on the toolbox because that gave her a better vantage point. And by the time we got to Arizona, she decided that she wanted to ride on top of the cab. So I drove across this country, the better part of 3,000 miles, with a dog, a 100-pound dog, standing erect on top of the cab, on top of the truck.
Wow. She can now ride in the truck.
I have to put her in the truck with me? That's your solution?
And I don't know where you would find this. This is such a special relationship.
That's my solution.
It made the show.
That's my solution.
And it was done at a very...
Hold on. Yes, my solution is put her in the truck. You should have put her in the truck to begin with. What?
I'm going to point out another issue with having a show like that now, which is that their show is a radio show. It was based on people calling in.
Right.
People don't want to talk on the phone.
No, they don't.
So,
but
you could still do the show, but you're more likely to have
on Discord.
Say someone working with 3D printing, and they're solving various 3D print issues for people, but they're more likely to be doing it as a
Twitch
you're
and
watching
Discord.
me work on the thing, and I'm reading Reddit stories to you and giving you my solutions because
it's a Twitch and Discord thing now. This is and what we're getting to is this is what sort of what we're trying to do.
I mean, technically it is.
This is kind of what we're trying to do with the call-in, with the NCIS, the call-in show.
Yes.
Which, I feel like we need to integrate a bit more. And the Discord, our Discord community can just pop in whenever we're doing something, like, I'm almost disappointed that Code Inc. didn't hop in the Discord with us for this. Just like I was hoping Dr. O would hop in the Discord with us for Wait, Don't Tell Me last week.
True.
And we're trying to car talkify. That's kind of our Sunday, is to car talkify Wait, Don't Tell Me.
Basically.
We're working on something like that, even though we're not knowledgeable and teaching about things yet. We would like to hit that point. What we're doing right now is developing format, developing personalities, developing, we're developing there. We're working our way towards something. So
Another thing about people not calling in, today's modern shame culture.
That too.
modern what culture?
Shame culture.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah.
Like this lady with the dog. We all have our opinions. We have no problem voicing our opinions on this.
Right.
She would not have called in if she thought that she was going to get
shamed.
Yeah.
That is true. That is
And
true.
The girl who had the who set the timer to blow up her dad's car and didn't tell him for however many years would not have called in.
True.
If she thought she was going to be genuinely yelled at for it versus what she got.
That's true. That's true. And that is something that we don't I don't think that we can claim. We have no problem shaming someone. We have no problem standing behind our feelings about something out loud and to someone's face in the moment.
That's what this channel is. Airing your opinions.
Yes. And we did that. We very much showed that we don't mind doing that with Wolfie Boy.
And that's the difference between
yes.
us and Car Talk. They were there to talk about cars. You did something dumb. They're just like, okay, that was dumb. Moving on.
Moving on. I am here to talk about dumb people. So you do something dumb, we're going to talk about it. There is no
right.
And moving on. That's why we're here.
So
I would like to think
some
that
of her examples of a crocheting forum or whatever, it could be done, but someone would have to actually, when they're doing their planning stages and setting up things, they would have to be very conscientious of, am I doing this in this format where we're going to acknowledge, okay, that was not the best choice. This is how we fix it. Or are we standing on are we going to keep coming back to how that wasn't a good choice?
Right.
Which honestly,
I feel like we do a good job of what?
Listen, honestly, for purposes of teaching, harping on the mistake doesn't teach someone to not make that mistake. It just teaches them not to ask for help.
Right. I also think that we're pretty good about not doing that. We're pretty good about not harping on a mistake. Now, if someone is continually making a mistake, or if the mistake they're making is on purpose,
If it's on purpose, it's not a mistake, no matter what they say.
And that's the problem. Well, then that's sort of, we have no problem identifying that and sticking with it. But I do like to think that we are capable of, of acknowledging and trying to fix and move on and not just being stuck on something. That a lot of times when we're stuck on something, we're stuck on it because the rest of the world isn't moving on. We're trying to, the world isn't.
Or we just got derailed.
Huh.
Yeah, no, very obviously, this train runs on a track that is far too narrow for it to actually support, and every time there's the slightest curve, it just falls.
That is us. That is us. Ooh, shiny squirrel. All right, back to the video.
We're almost to the
specific
end.
time when everyone had to have a car, but also you could still fix your own car. I love it. It's the best. I don't think you could make it again, but if you think something like this exists, please let me know. That would be great. Are you looking for more science media to watch? I would love to recommend 17 Pages, a documentary about one of the largest scientific scandals in the 20th century.
Ooh.
This documentary is from Kevin McKay, the guy behind the Bobby Broccoli channel. A single biology paper caught the attention of the media and the United States Congress. This documentary takes you through the historical events with news footage
we're
and
in the ad
congressional
read part of this
testimony
now.
and new interviews with the people involved. This documentary will
I
forever
would
change the way you
really
think about scientific
like
results
to get
and the
into
process of scientific
Nebula.
publication. 17 Pages is just one of the many documentaries
I would
exclusively
love
available on
to
my
be,
streaming service Nebula. Nebula hosts well-researched original content with no ads. I would please
love to be
17 Pages.
Get Nebula,
Pizza Hut is about to hook you up with more of what you love. Because when you order any pizza, we'll hook you up with a free pizza later.
I'm afraid I can't
Here,
afford
on my little compass of scientific
too
media.
many more.
Incredibly well researched, but also highly produced. You will want to pay attention because it will keep you on the edge of your seat. And there's even more to see on Nebula. If you're looking for something on the other end of the spectrum, you can check out my video. Why does milk say that? It's a casual exploration of why does milk say that? And it's available now on Nebula. This milk video is not on YouTube, so you could go watch that right now on Nebula. Or after you finish 17 Pages, because it's really good. Use my
I
link.
want to go watch it.
Go.nebula.tv/Angela Collier to get 40% off.
'Cause
Or
I
here's the
could
QR code if you're on your phone. Are people watching YouTube videos on their phone? Kids these days. That's just $36 a year or $3 a month. And there
I
you
wish
have
I
it.
could afford
You've
it.
wasted another hour of your life on an A Collier Astro video. Should I say it? Does it even make sense in this context? Don't drive like my brother.
Well, it's
Don't
happened
drive
again.
like
You
my brother.
squandered another perfectly good hour listening to Car Talk. So much listening, we're click and clack. The Tappert Brothers. Don't drive like my brother.
Don't drive like my brother.
Please. We'll be back next week. Bye-bye. Hello, you're on Car Talk.
Hello, Tom Ray. It's great to talk to you. This is John from Houston.
Hi, John.
John, we can barely hear you.
Okay, I'll speak up a little bit.
Oh, that's good.
I work for the government, so I can't tell you too much, but I occasionally drive this government vehicle. It's one of those Rockwell things.
Uh-huh.
And twice it's done a very funny thing, and I thought maybe you guys could help me with it.
What Rockwell thing?
You know, one of those Rockwell vans?
A van?
Anyway, the twice that I've driven this thing off the line, when I first started up, it starts great, accelerates really, really well,
Yeah.
and it runs incredibly rough, though, for about 2 minutes. This is one of those puzzlers.
Yeah. Rough for 2 minutes.
After the first 2 minutes, after this really rough ride, there's kind of a jolt, and then it runs smooth, but only for about 6.5 more minutes. And then at that point, the engine dies.
The engine dies?
Yeah, it just stops completely.
Gee, you know, I hate to make any...
Two different vehicles by serial number, and both have done exactly the same thing.
Oh, these vehicles have serial numbers.
Well, I mean, different vehicles.
I hate to be suspicious.
I'm suspicious also.
I hate to be suspicious, but the whole what would I call it? The sound coming from the telephone.
Yeah.
Sounds so familiar. I mean, I expect you to say.
I'm on the cellular.
Yeah, you sound like Tom Hanks saying, "Houston, we have a problem." Where are you calling from, John?
Just a second. Let me look. I'm about 200 miles north of Hawaii.
No. Really? No kidding. How did they fish you into this deal?
Oh, this is a good deal. In fact, I'm in the vehicle as we speak.
And it's probably running really quiet right now, huh?
Yeah, it's running pretty quiet, I'd say. We're still going pretty fast, but it's very quiet.
How fast are you going?
Oh, about 17,500 miles an hour.
Boy, this thing must have some brakes, huh?
This must be a Dodge Dart. Holy cow.
I can tell you this much. When we use the brakes, they glow red hot.
Oh, I bet they do.
You know, when I heard you, I was going to say that this is the furthest distance from which we have ever received a call But that's probably not true. You're only a couple of 100 miles up, right?
That's right. Although we're talking through a teeter satellite, which is 25,000 miles away, so it has to go a long way before it gets to your fair city. And right now we're docked to a large space station, the Mir space station.
Right, we heard on the news of it. Now,
are you the guy going in or the guy coming out?
Well, I'm one of the folks that's delivering the guy who went up there, Jerry Leninger.
Oh, you're the cabbie.
We've got John Blaha on board now, and he's been up there for 4 months.
So you're the taxi driver.
So to speak.
Now, you've been up there for 4 days, and it's clear that you've already run out of people to call because you've called us. I mean, you called your wife, you called your mother and father.
You talked to President Clinton. And now you said, who else can we call?
Well, we're getting ready to eat dinner. I thought I'd waste a little time.
Well, boy, this is an honor to hear from you.
Well, we have to ask you, if you have another minute or so, what do you drive when you're a civilian, when you're on the ground?
Well, I have 2 cars. I have a Toyota 4Runner, 1987, and a Pontiac Grand Prix.
Yeah, but neither one of them has the acceleration of this thing, huh?
No, but also not the miles. The odometer in this thing reads about 60 million miles.
Boy, oh boy, I gotta say, you guys have got guts.
Well, I gotta tell you,
really cool.
I went to the small technical institute up the river.
Oh,
When I was there in about 1977, I had a green Sunbeam Alpine, and I used to go to this garage where I'd pay a few bucks an hour, and some folks would help me fix it. And I think they sound kind of familiar.
No kidding.
No kidding. This wouldn't be John Grunsfeld, would it?
Yep, that's me.
Well, the last time you were there, you didn't pay your bill. You have an outstanding bill of $5 for bay rental. If we have a forwarding address, we'll send it to you.
Okay, you must remember my Sunbeam Alpine.
I do remember your Sunbeam Alpine.
Yeah, ran on 3 cylinders. Of course, how could we forget it?
That was on a good day.
Well, I wish you a safe landing, John. Good luck, and I'm proud of you.
Everyone is going to think my hair looks bad, but really, I just finished this hat. I knit this hat, I made it, and I think it looks really nice, and it was, like, the high was 59 in Boston, and this is, like, the last time I'll ever get to wear it until it's the fall, but I made it. Doesn't it? It looks
great.
like a hat, right?
Yeah, it looks exactly like a hat. That's really cool. I'm going to edit my... Well, Lockpick... Lockpick said, Nebula is awesome. Peanut Gallery said, I prefer Constipation to Nebula. It's more well-formed.
That was supposed to be Constellation. But unfortunately, you can't go back and edit that comment.
I know. And I had to hold in the laughter. I almost had ha-ha diarrhea.
In all honesty, both of them actually work with that sentence.
Exactly.
I understand it's a typo, but both words actually do
They
work.
really do. That's why at first I was like, did he just make a really great joke? No.
Yes.
No,
Yes,
we didn't. Yes, he did. No, he didn't. Oh.
Nah, it was just a pig in the ass.
Ow. Lockpick said my Nebula is free with my Curiosity Stream sub. That's okay, my Constipation is free with my Cheese of the Month sub. Thank you guys for being here. That was a lot of fun. You know, I grew up on Car Talk. It was part of my life, most of my life. So this was a lot of fun. Thank you for sharing this with me. Thank you for being here, Lockpick. Thank you for being here, Just Me Crystal. Thank you guys. It was closing thoughts. Oh, Code Ink, thank you for showing up. Closing thoughts, though, guys?
No,
Guess
that
not.
requires me to be alert enough to have thoughts.
Right. So, guess not. Well, alright. Stick around for the raid, guys. Thank you for joining us. And, as they say around here, 2 up, 2 down. VA, double deuces. We're out, y'all.